Captain Elias Ward floated alone in the darkness of space. His ship, the Horizon's Edge, was silent, only the faint hum of life support breaking the emptiness. Stars stretched endlessly outside his window, cold and distant like tiny eyes watching him from eternity. He had been drifting for days, no signal, no help, no sound except his own heartbeat echoing in his suit. He had tried to send distress calls, but his transmitter was damaged. His oxygen was running low, food was almost gone, and his ship's core reactor flickered like a dying candle. Every minute felt like an hour, every shadow like a ghost of his lost crew. They were gone, swallowed by the void when the ship was struck by an asteroid storm during a rescue mission. Elias sat in the pilot's chair staring into the stars. He whispered to himself, "So this is how it ends." His voice cracked, the loneliness heavy enough to crush his soul. He looked at the Earth insignia on his uniform, remembering the laughter of his friends, the warmth of sunlight, and the blue sky he once took for granted. Then something impossible happened. The stars ahead began to move, twisting like liquid silver. Space itself bent, and a shadow larger than any ship he had ever seen emerged from the void. It wasn't a human vessel. It was vast, alive, and glowing with patterns of violet light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Elias froze. His first thought was fear. An alien dreadnought. Maybe hostile, maybe ancient. His hands trembled as he reached for the emergency thrusters, but his systems were dead. The unknown ship loomed closer until it filled the entire viewport. And then everything went silent. Even the hum of his ship stopped. A soft voice echoed inside his head, calm yet powerful. "Do you feel lonely, human?" Elias gasped. He looked around, but no one was there. The voice wasn't from his radio. It was inside his mind, like a whisper that knew his every memory. He tried to respond, but his throat locked. "I can hear your fear," the voice said, gentle and sad. "You are far from home, cut off, dying, but your heart still beats with hope. Who are you?" Elias managed to say, his voice shaking. "I am Queen Sereth of the Varelian Empire," the voice replied. "Ruler of 1,000 worlds and bearer of the mind link. You have entered my reach, and yet I sense something I have not felt in centuries." Elias blinked, stunned. He had read about the Varelians, ancient enemies of humanity from the early expansion wars. They were said to be a collective species, connected through thought and emotion. But long ago they vanished beyond the galactic rim. Their name was a legend whispered in old military archives. "I didn't mean to intrude," Elias said. "My ship's failing." "I'm not here for war." The Queen's voice grew softer, almost curious. "War? Such a small word for what your kind calls survival. I do not seek battle, human, I seek understanding." Her tone was strange, like she was speaking through layers of emotion. Elias could feel it, loneliness, ancient and deep, the same emptiness that had consumed him since his crew's death. The alien ship extended a shimmering light toward his wrecked vessel. The beam touched his hull and suddenly his systems flickered back to life. Screens lit up. Oxygen levels stabilized. His heart raced. "You repaired my ship?" he whispered. "Not repaired," she replied. "Connected." Elias's eyes widened. The beam wasn't metal or energy. It was living light, flowing like liquid veins across the hull. For a moment he felt her presence more clearly, as if she was standing beside him, unseen but real. "Why help me?" he asked. "Because you are alone," she said. "And so am I." Her words hit him harder than any weapon. There was no malice, no deception, only truth. For centuries, her kind had shared one endless consciousness, but now their link was fading. Their voices were falling silent, and she, their queen, was the last to remain fully aware. Elias stared into the glowing mass of her ship, realizing he was looking at a being that had lived through entire ages of history. Yet she sounded like someone searching for meaning just like him. "What do you want from me?" he asked carefully. "I want to understand your loneliness," she said. "Humans walk alone through time, yet they never lose their will to live, even in sorrow, even in isolation. Tell me, human, how do you endure it?" Elias didn't know what to say. He had asked himself the same question for days, staring at the cold void. Maybe it was because humans were built to hope, to reach out even when nothing answers back. He smiled weakly. "Because we always believe someone's out there listening." The silence that followed felt alive. Her presence shimmered in his thoughts like the faint touch of a dream. For a second he felt her emotions, curiosity, wonder, and something else. Something fragile like the first breath of trust. "Your answer," she said finally, is not what I expected. Her ship began to drift alongside his, matching his orbit perfectly. The stars reflected off its surface like 1,000 tiny suns. Elias leaned closer to the glass, awe washing over his fear. Then what now? He asked. Now, she said softly, we talk. As her words echoed through his mind, Elias felt something shift inside him. The emptiness didn't feel so endless anymore. The void that had once felt like a grave now felt like a bridge. A connection between two lost souls from opposite ends of the galaxy. He didn't know it yet. But that single question, do you feel lonely, human? Would change not only his life, but the fate of both their worlds forever. The silence stretched between them, vast as the stars themselves. Captain Elias sat frozen in his seat, unsure if he was speaking to a ghost, a god, or something beyond his understanding. The alien ship floated beside his own like a dark mirror, its hull alive with shifting patterns of violet light, each pulse echoing like a heartbeat across the void. Do you feel lonely, human? The Queen's voice came again, soft but heavy, like the weight of eternity carried in a whisper. It wasn't just a question anymore. It was as if the entire galaxy paused to hear the answer. Elias took a deep breath. Yes, I do, he said quietly, his voice cracked. I've lost my crew, my home, and maybe myself. For a long moment there was no reply. Then the Queen spoke again, slower, thoughtful. You admit it so easily, she said. Most of your kind hide their pain. They fight it, they deny it, yet you face it. Elias gave a weak smile. Maybe because I don't have a choice anymore. I have studied your species, she continued, across records and captured transmissions from your wars. Your songs, your prayers, her tone changed, softer, curious. You speak to the stars even when they do not answer. You hope even when hope is gone. Why? Elias looked out the window, his reflection lost in the endless black. Because hope is what makes us human, he said. It's what keeps us alive. Even when everything else dies, the Queen was silent again. But Elias could feel her presence pulsing in the back of his mind, as if she was thinking, feeling, learning. I envy you, she finally said. My people are bound together through thought, through a shared mind. Yet I have not felt true connection in centuries. My link to them is fading. They follow, they obey. But they do not feel anymore, Elias frowned. You're their queen, but you're alone too? Yes, she whispered. Imagine hearing 1,000,000 voices, and then one by one they fall silent, until only yours remains. The words sent a chill through Elias's spine. He could feel her loneliness bleeding into him. It wasn't just isolation. It was a silence that stretched across entire worlds. He closed his eyes, whispering, I think I understand. No, she said gently, you do not, but maybe. You can show me. Before Elias could reply, his ship's systems flickered again. His console glowed with strange symbols, alive with alien energy. He felt a pressure in his mind, not painful, but overwhelming. Like standing on the edge of a vast ocean of memories. What are you doing? He gasped. I wish to understand you, she said. Your loneliness, your strength, your reason for existing when the void should have claimed you long ago. I can't. He started, but then he saw it. Flashes of light. Bursts of sound. Images filled his head. His childhood on Earth. His first launch into orbit. His mother's laughter. The crash of ocean waves. And the faces of his lost crew smiling in memory. The Queen was seeing everything through his eyes, and in return he began to see her. The world of the Virelians unfolded before him. Oceans of crystal. Cities of light, endless hives where billions once sang in unity. And now those cities were dark. Silent, cold. He could feel her sorrow, her desperation, her exhaustion from carrying the weight of a dying empire. Her people had become hollow, their shared emotion drained by centuries of order and perfection. You feel everything, Elias whispered. But no one feels you, her voice trembled. Yes, and you, human, are the first to see me as more than a voice. Elias felt his heart tighten. For a moment he forgot she was alien. Her words carried something painfully human. A longing for understanding. For connection, tell me, she asked again, but softer now like a plea. How do you survive the emptiness inside your soul? Elias swallowed, searching for the right words. We don't survive it, he said finally. We live with it, we make art, we build, we love. Because that's how we fight the silence. The Queen was quiet, but he could feel her emotions ripple like waves across his thoughts. Confusion, wonder, and something like admiration. I thought loneliness was weakness, she said, but for you, it is creation. Maybe that's what makes us dangerous, Elias said with a half smile. We find meaning in what others fear. A strange sound filled his ship, a soft vibration like a sigh through metal. The Queen's massive vessel began to drift closer, until her light washed across his face. You intrigue me, human, she said. I have studied countless species, but none ever spoke like this, perhaps. You are not the fragile race we once believed, Elias chuckled. We break easily, but we always rebuild. I want to see more, she said suddenly. I want to feel what you feel. See your memories not as data, but as life, Elias hesitated. That kind of connection. It could change us both. Then let it, she whispered. Maybe loneliness is a disease we can heal together. The lights in his cockpit dimmed. A soft glow spread through the ship as a golden mist flowed from her vessel. Wrapping around his hull like gentle fire, Elias felt his heartbeat sync with hers, his thoughts blurring with the rhythm of her voice. For the first time since his crew's death, he didn't feel alone. And somewhere, deep within the alien queen's endless consciousness, something long dead began to awaken, a spark of emotion, a forgotten warmth that no hive mind could ever create. Their minds brushed against each other like two galaxies touching for the first time, fragile but infinite, and as the connection deepened, a single thought whispered between them both. This is only the beginning. Elias's hand shook as the golden mist surrounded him. The air in his cockpit shimmered like liquid light. He could feel warmth seeping into his skin, and a rhythm, slow and steady, matching his heartbeat. His thoughts began to blur, not from fear but from something far stranger. A merging. Relax, the Queen's voice whispered inside his mind. You are safe. Her tone was soft, almost motherly, yet powerful enough to make the air vibrate. Elias wanted to resist, but he couldn't. The void around him seemed to fade, replaced by waves of light and sound. The stars melted away, and suddenly he was standing in another world. Her world. He was no longer inside his ship. Instead, he stood in a vast glowing chamber, filled with crystalline structures rising like frozen music. The walls pulsed with color, alive. Each crystal sang a note, and together they formed a harmony that filled the air. He realized, and he was standing inside her mind. This is the Hall of Memory, she said, her voice echoing everywhere and nowhere at once. Every queen carries it within her, a living archive of every Varelian who has ever lived. Elias turned slowly, overwhelmed by the beauty and sorrow around him. He could feel millions of voices, whispers, laughter, cries, and all fading into silence. They're gone, he said softly. Yes, she replied, my people no longer dream. They follow commands, they build, they obey. But their hearts are empty. The connection that once united us is dying. He walked among the glowing crystals, each one dimming like a dying star. The silence felt heavier than any weight he had ever known. Why show me this? He asked. Because you feel what I cannot, she said. You carry loss, yet you still move forward. I want to understand that. Elias looked down at his hands. Pain reminds us that we're alive, he said quietly. When we lose people, we carry them with us. Their memories become our strength. For a moment, the entire chamber pulsed brighter, as if her world was listening. Show me, she said. Show me what it means to remember. Before he could ask how, the crystals around him shattered into light, and suddenly he was somewhere else. He saw Earth, blue skies, waves crashing against white shores, the smell of rain and soil. He saw his mother laughing, his first flight into orbit, his crewmates joking during training. He felt their warmth, their trust, their bravery, and their final screams as the ship tore apart in space. The Queen saw it all through his eyes for a moment. The void between them burned with color. She saw sunsets, laughter, tears, sacrifice, and love, things her kind had long forgotten. She gasped, her voice trembling. So much emotion, so much pain, and yet you endure it? Yes, Elias said, his voice firm but soft. That's what it means to be human. We break, but we rebuild. We fall, but we rise again. Her light flickered, her voice shook. I can feel it. It hurts, Elias nodded. That's what makes it real. The vision shifted again. This time Elias felt her memories flood into him. He saw the birth of her empire, endless hives filled with song and unity, billions of minds connected in perfect harmony. He saw her standing beneath a glowing sky of green auroras, her crown of silver light pulsing with life. She was young then, proud, filled with purpose, but as centuries passed, the harmony began to break. He saw silence spreading like a disease, voices fading until she stood alone at the heart of her empire. The loneliness was unbearable, an echo that never stopped, a constant reminder that her people no longer felt, only existed. Tears filled Elias's eyes. "You've been carrying them alone?" "Yes," she said, "for thousands of years. I have spoken to silence." The two stood in that shared dream, human and alien, pain and understanding intertwined. The chamber pulsed again, brighter now, not with despair, but with something new, you see. "Human," she whispered. "Your loneliness is a gift, not a curse. You find strength in it where we only found decay." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why we scare you." Her laughter filled the air like soft bells. "Perhaps. But now I see why the universe watches your kind with such curiosity." The vision began to fade. The hall of memory dissolved into starlight. Elias found himself back in his cockpit. His breath heavy, his heart racing, but he wasn't alone anymore. The link between them still pulsed softly in his mind. "I felt your heart," she said quietly. "It beats faster than any I've ever known." "And I felt yours," he replied. "It's heavy but strong." "Elias Ward," she said, his name rolling from her voice like music. "You have changed something inside me. I do not know what it is yet, but it is growing." He looked at the massive alien ship through his viewport, her glowing patterns forming shapes he couldn't understand. Maybe language, maybe emotion. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," she said, "we see what happens when two lonely hearts share one silence." The void between their ships shimmered, and for the first time in galactic history, a human and an alien queen shared a heartbeat, and somewhere deep inside her empire, far beyond either of them, other Varelians began to stir. They felt something strange in the hive, a pulse, a flicker of emotion, a spark that hadn't existed in centuries without knowing it. The queen and the human had just reignited the first light of empathy across the stars, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The days that followed were unlike anything Elias had ever known. He was no longer drifting through empty space, but tethered, mind and soul, to a consciousness that stretched across light years. Every thought he had echoed faintly in her mind, and every emotion she felt brushed against his like waves touching a shore. When he awoke, he often heard her voice before he opened his eyes, sometimes soft and distant, sometimes near and warm, like a dream that refused to fade. "Your mind is restless," she would say. "You dream even when awake, and you listen even when silent," he would answer, smiling faintly. Their link had grown deeper than either expected. The neural connection that began as a bridge of understanding now pulsed with shared feeling. When she laughed, he felt it in his chest. When he remembered pain, she flinched, yet far beyond their fragile peace. The Varelian Council had begun to notice the change in their queen. Her thoughts had become slower to reach them, her voice in the hive softer, more distant. To a race bound by one mind, individuality was the same as rebellion. In the royal citadel orbiting the violet moon of Varaxis, the elder voices of the council gathered, their thoughts merging into a single cold tone. "The queen's link is contaminated," one said. "She reaches beyond the hive." "To a human," said another. "She risks everything. The purity of our mind must be restored." Their decision was swift. They would sever her link, even if it destroyed her mind. Far away, Elias didn't yet know of the danger. He sat in his ship, feeling the hum of her presence through the walls like the heartbeat of a giant. She had shown him her empire through the link, endless towers of crystal and cities built from light. But there was no laughter, no song, only silence. "They live," she said, "but they do not feel I am their queen. Yet I am a ghost among them." Elias leaned back in his chair. "You gave them perfection, and in return they lost what made them alive." Her voice trembled slightly. "Perhaps I did. For centuries I thought emotion was weakness, that to rule was to silence the noise of feeling, but you made me hear it again." Elias hesitated. "And what do you hear now?" She paused. "Your heartbeat," she said simply. The words made his chest tighten. He didn't know how to respond, but he didn't need to. The silence between them said everything, but the peace was broken. A tremor rippled through the connection, sharp and painful. Elias winced, pressing his hands to his temples. "What's happening?" He gasped. They are trying to reach me, she said. Her voice strained. The council has discovered our bond. He felt her panic for the first time, a storm of emotion that shook his thoughts. The link flickered with static. You have to break it, Elias shouted. They'll hurt you. No, she said firmly. If I sever this, I lose myself. Then what do we do? The Queen's ship glowed brighter, its energy pulsing through the void. We run, she said. Her vessel moved with impossible speed, folding through dimensions Elias's mind could barely comprehend. The stars became rivers of light, and his ship followed, dragged by the living tether that connected them. Behind them, the Varelian warships emerged, and sleek, silver predators slicing through the dark. Their telepathic weapons flared like storms, blasting waves of mental force that tore at reality itself. Elias, she called, her voice echoing in his skull. You must trust me. I already do, he said without hesitation. She pulled him into a void corridor, a pocket of folded space that shimmered like liquid glass. Here no light existed, and only thought and motion. For hours, maybe days, they drifted, their minds the only things keeping them grounded. At last, they emerged into a quiet system near a dying red sun. The silence was heavy but safe. Elias exhaled shakily. Are we clear? For now, she said, but they will not stop. They fear what we have created. He frowned. And what have we created? There was a pause, then she said softly, something forbidden, something alive. Her image appeared before him, not in full form, but as light shaped into a woman's silhouette. Her eyes were galaxies, her skin a shimmer of starlight. She stepped closer, her hand reaching toward him through the air. Elias reached back. His hand met light, yet it felt warm. I didn't think a queen could be lonely, he whispered. And I didn't think a human could be brave enough to love the unknown, she replied. Neither spoke after that. The air between them glowed with quiet understanding. Back in the Varelian core worlds, the council broadcasted a decree across the hive mind. The queen is compromised. She has formed an independent consciousness. All must prepare for purification. Millions of Varelians turned their gaze to the stars where their queen had vanished. The hive trembled with confusion, and somewhere deep within the silence, a whisper spread, a single forbidden phrase carried from mind to mind. Do you feel lonely? Those 4 words, once meaningless, now carried power. They stirred curiosity, emotion, and memory within the hive. For the first time in centuries, a Varelian worker stopped working, looked to the sky, and wondered. Elias didn't know it yet, but the spark of rebellion had already begun. What started as a question between 2 lonely souls was now a flame spreading through an empire built on silence. And as the red sun burned weakly above them, the queen turned her gaze toward him and said, They will come for me, but I am not afraid. Why not? He asked quietly. Because, she whispered. I am no longer alone. Her light dimmed, her form fading, but her voice lingered in his mind, and for the first time in the history of both species, loneliness itself began to die. In the crimson glow of the dying sun, 2 ships floated side by side, one small and battered, the other vast and alive with pulsing veins of light. Elias stood by the cracked window of his cockpit, watching the alien queen's vessel breathe like a living being. Her voice still echoed faintly in his mind, calm and steady, but under it there was something new, fear. They're moving faster than expected, she said. The council has activated the mind reclamation protocol. Elias frowned. What does that mean? It means they will strip my thoughts from the hive. They will erase everything that connects me to them and to you. He clenched his fists. They can't just erase you. They can, she replied softly. They built me, shaped me, and now they will unmake me. Her words sank deep into Elias's heart. He could feel her pain, not just in her voice but through the link itself, a pulse of sorrow and defiance that filled his mind. He had felt loneliness before, but this was different. It was the terror of being forgotten, of being erased from every memory in existence. No, Elias said. I won't let that happen. You are one man, she said gently. You cannot fight an empire. He looked at her ship glowing in the distance, then back at his reflection in the cracked glass. Then I'll fight their idea, he said. You taught me something. The connection is power. That emotion isn't weakness, it's what keeps us alive. Maybe it's time they learn that too. Across the galaxy, the Varelian Empire stirred, The council broadcasted waves of emotionless command through the hive, ordering unity, order, silence. But something strange began to happen. The link that connected billions of Virelians trembled. Fragments of memory flickering through the shared mind. Images of laughter, songs, sunsets, and love. Things no Virelian should remember. And then came the phrase, the whisper carried from one consciousness to another. Do you feel lonely? The question spread like wildfire, rippling through cities of crystal and oceans of living light. Workers paused mid-task, soldiers dropped their weapons. Thinkers stared into the sky for the first time in millennia. Individual thought began to bloom. Do I? One worker thought, and in that moment she felt her own heartbeat separate from the hive. Her fear turned to wonder. Do you feel lonely? It became a song, spreading faster than the council could suppress. The hive mind trembled, fractured, awakened. The queen felt it too, tears of glowing light forming in her spectral eyes. They are remembering, she whispered. They are feeling again, Elias grinned. Looks like your people don't need perfection. They need permission to be alive. 1,000 light years away, the council's fortress pulsed with warning lights. Contain the infection, the elders commanded. Erase the queen's resonance. Silence the human frequency. They unleashed a weapon older than their empire, the Mindbreaker Pulse, a wave of telepathic energy designed to cleanse all corrupted thought. The queen gasped as the energy built across space. Elias, they mean to erase everything. Me? You, the link, even the memories we've shared. Then we end this, he said firmly, strapping into his seat. Tell me what to do. She hesitated. If we merge completely, our minds can amplify the link across the hive. We can stabilize the awakening before they erase it. But what happens to us? He asked. She paused. We will not survive the merging. Elias smiled faintly. Then let's make it count. He closed his eyes. The neural link deepened, light filling every corner of his mind. He felt her, every thought, every feeling, every memory, the pain of centuries, the loneliness of ruling a silent empire, and the fragile hope she found in one lost human. Their consciousness fused, and for a heartbeat there was no Elias, no queen, only one being. A spark of emotion blazing through the galaxy. Every Virelian felt it. A wave of warmth surged through the hive, breaking chains of control. They felt grief, joy, wonder, love. Sensations they had forgotten were possible. The council's stronghold shook under the weight of billions of new minds awakening. The elders screamed in unison, "Shut it down!" But it was too late. The queen and Elias became a storm of empathy, their thoughts radiating across the stars. Their words echoed in every awakened mind. Loneliness is not the absence of others. It is the reminder that connection still matters. The Mindbreaker pulse collided with their energy, turning the skies into oceans of light. The red sun flared brighter than ever before, flooding the system with radiance. And then silence when the light faded. Elias's ship drifted quietly. The queen's vessel no longer glowed, its organic veins dimming to gray. He could no longer feel her presence in his mind. For a moment he thought it was over. Then he heard her voice, faint but serene. You did it, Elias. They feel again. He smiled weakly, his vision fading. You're not alone anymore. And neither are you, she whispered. Her voice lingered until it melted into the void. Across the Virelian world, something miraculous had happened. The hive was no more, but life had returned. Individual minds, now awake, built songs, art, and laughter. For the first time in their history, they began to dream. They built monuments not to conquest, but to remembrance, to the queen who freed them, and to the human who taught them how to feel. Above the ruins of the old council, a phrase glowed in ancient Virelian script. Do you feel lonely? And beneath it, in human language, 3 simple words were etched forever, never again. Together, Elias drifted in silence, his ship half dead and his heartbeat faint. The explosion that lit the stars moments ago had vanished into quiet darkness, leaving only debris and fading light. The queen's vessel floated near him, a hollow shell now, the brilliant glow that once marked her presence gone. But the link still pulsed faintly in his mind, like a heartbeat miles away, distant but alive. Serath, he whispered, his voice cracking. Can you hear me? A whisper brushed through the static, soft and trembling. I am here. Barely. He leaned forward, gripping the console. We did it. Your people are awake, they're free. Yes, she said. But the mind-breaker pulse did not stop. It is still expanding. It feeds on emotion now. All that we restored. It will devour. Elias's blood ran cold. You mean the more they feel, the stronger it gets? Yes, she said. Every emotion they release fuels its core. The council built it to erase feeling, not contain it. He looked at the dying red sun in the distance, where a dark sphere of energy pulsed like a second heart in the system. Its light twisted and consumed everything near it. Then we stop it, Elias said. How? There is a reactor at its center, she explained. The mind core. If we disrupt its field, it will collapse in on itself. Elias nodded. Then we go there. But her voice faltered. You misunderstand, Elias. To reach it, one must enter the field. The neural energy will shred anything biological. Anything with a mind. So we can't send a drone or a machine? No, she whispered. It must be someone who can resist. Someone who has already faced the void and refused to break. He sat back slowly, the meaning sinking in. You're saying it has to be me. The silence between them was answer enough. Elias closed his eyes, thinking of Earth, of blue skies, laughter, warmth, and the lives he'd never see again. He thought of the Queen's voice when she first asked him that question. Do you feel lonely, human? He smiled faintly. Not anymore. He started preparing his ship manually, shutting down non-essential systems, rerouting power to the thrusters. His hands trembled, but his mind was clear. The Queen's faint image appeared in front of him, her form flickering like a fading dream. You don't have to do this, Elias. There must be another way. There isn't, he said. You said it yourself. I'm just one man, but one is enough. She stared at him, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow and something deeper. If you die, the link will die too. I will lose you forever. He smiled softly. Then remember me. I will remember, she whispered. For as long as stars burn. His ship turned toward the mind core. The field shimmered like liquid fire, waves of psychic energy distorting space itself. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but he pushed forward. As he approached, he could hear whispers, voices, memories, emotions, all feeding the core. It wasn't just a weapon. It was alive. A swirling storm of everything the galaxy had ever felt. The Queen's voice guided him through the static. You must reach the center, Elias. That is where the failsafe lies. Once you reach it, I will channel my remaining energy through the link to help you trigger the collapse. Copy that, he said, his voice calm though his hands shook. He passed through the outer ring. The pressure slammed into his mind, flooding him with visions, his crew dying, his home burning. The loneliness he had buried for years returning tenfold. He screamed, gripping his head. I can't. Yes, you can, her voice said. Remember what you told me. Pain means you are alive. He gritted his teeth, pushing forward through the waves of light. Every step closer felt like tearing through his own memories, but he didn't stop. Finally, the core came into view. A massive sphere of light and shadow swirling together, screaming with the voices of the hive. It was beautiful and horrifying. Now, she said, when I give the word, activate your ship's fusion drive, direct it into the core, and we will overload it together. Elias's vision blurred, but he smiled. Together, the Queen's presence filled his mind one last time. Warm and full of emotion. You changed me, Elias Ward. You taught me how to feel, how to hope, and how to love, he whispered. And you taught me what loneliness really means. Goodbye, human, she said softly. You will not be forgotten. The connection flared, golden light filled his ship. Her energy poured into him, and together they unleashed the full force of his ship's reactor into the core. The explosion was silent, yet it shook every world in the system. Light brighter than 1,000 suns flooded space, and the mind core collapsed, folding into itself until nothing remained but a calm, glowing nebula far away across countless worlds. The Virelians felt a sudden stillness. The storm in their minds faded, replaced by peace, and then a warmth, like a memory of sunlight, spread through their thoughts. A human heartbeat, faint but eternal, echoed in the collective consciousness. The Queen, reborn through fragments of energy, whispered across the stars, Do you feel lonely? Millions of voices answered together, Never again. Where the mind core once burned, only a small fragment of Elias's ship drifted, a single metal plate engraved with his name. It shimmered in the nebula's light, and around it new stars began to form. The Queen watched them from afar, her voice soft with grief and pride. You are gone, Elias, but your light remains. And in that endless silence where once there had been loneliness, there was now connection, a bridge of memory and emotion stretching between two species. The legend of the human and the queen spread through galaxies, and every time a soul looked to the stars and whispered, "Do you feel lonely?" The stars seemed to answer, "Not anymore." Centuries passed, empires rose and fell, and the stars shifted across the heavens. Yet in the far reaches of the Orion expanse, where once two ships had vanished into light, a new star burned brighter than all the rest. It pulsed with a rhythm, steady, human, alive. To the Varelians it was sacred. They called it the heart of the void, a symbol of rebirth, a reminder that even in emptiness, connection could bloom. Every generation gathered beneath its light to remember the story whispered across time. The tale of the queen who found her soul in a dying human. The new Varelian civilization was nothing like the old. Gone were the cold hives and silent cities, now their worlds sang. Their oceans glowed with living coral that resonated with emotion. Their buildings breathed with light shaped by feeling. Every Varelian carried two things in their mind: empathy and curiosity. And deep in their genetic memory, there was still a name that echoed softly: Elias Ward. Unquiet evening, aboard an exploration vessel near the heart of the void. A young Varelian named Lyrian adjusted her ship's scanners. Her skin shimmered faintly with hues of silver and blue, reflecting her mood, calm curiosity mixed with faint awe. "Command, I'm detecting something unusual," she said, her voice musical. "There's an ancient signal coming from within the nebula," her superior replied through the comms. "Probably residual radiation. Continue mapping the region," but the signal grew stronger, rhythmic, steady, almost deliberate. Lyrian frowned, fingers moving across her console. "No, this is structured, repeating sequence. Old Terran binary." Her crewmate leaned closer. "Binary, as in human." Lyrian nodded slowly. "Yes, and it's repeating one phrase. What does it say?" She translated it, her voice trembling. "Do you feel lonely?" The crew went silent, the hum of the ship the only sound. "That's impossible," one whispered. "That phrase hasn't been spoken in over 300 years. Lyrian stared out the viewport at the glowing heart of the nebula. "It's not impossible," she said quietly. "It's a message." She followed the signal deeper into the cloud, guided by instinct more than sensors. As they neared the center, the mists parted, revealing a fragment of an ancient hull, burned and broken but unmistakably human. Elias Ward's ship, or what was left of it, it floated there, preserved in the soft glow of the nebula like a monument forged by time itself. Lyrian's breath caught as she saw words faintly etched into the metal. "Never again together." Her voice trembled as she whispered, "He was real." Then suddenly her screen flickered. Lines of text appeared across her console, alien and human code woven together. A soft hum filled the air, and a voice, faint, static-filled, but unmistakable, echoed through the bridge. "Do you feel lonely, traveler?" Every crew member froze. The voice was human, warm, tired, and ancient. Lyrian stepped forward, her eyes wide. "Who are you?" "I was Elias Ward," the voice replied slowly. "Or, what remains of him?" She covered her mouth in disbelief. "How are you still alive?" "I am not," he said softly. "But the link between us, between humanity and the Varelians, it never truly ended. I left a message within the core of this nebula, a piece of my mind bound to the Queen's essence, waiting for someone to hear." Lyrian felt tears in her eyes, tears of light, shimmering as they fell. "We've changed, Elias. Because of you both, we feel now, we create. We love." There was silence, then a faint chuckle, weary but full of peace. "Then our sacrifice was not in vain." The signal crackled again. "Tell me, child of the stars, do you feel lonely?" She smiled through her tears. "No, not anymore." "Good," he whispered. "Then our work is done." The signal began to fade, the ship's lights dimming around them. But before it vanished completely, a final message appeared on the console. "If you ever feel alone, look to the heart of the void. You'll find us there." Generations later, both humans and Varelians built a station at the edge of that glowing nebula, a place of learning, peace, and shared stories. They called it Ward's Haven, where children of both species grew together under the same sky. A monument stood at its center, a statue of a human reaching out his hand, and a queen made of light reaching back. Between them, carved in both languages, were the words that began it all. Do you feel lonely? And beneath, written smaller yet brighter than the stars around them, not anymore. And somewhere in the endless silence of the cosmos, a faint echo drifted between the stars, the soft, eternal voice of a queen and a human, their laughter carried on solar winds, their bond unbroken by time, forever answering the question that once shook the galaxy. Do you feel lonely, human? Never again.